Hi everyone! I am really excited to introduce you to my new winter story. This is Luna. This beautiful cover is by Britta Teckentrup and the book is illustrated by Jo Anne Davies. I love Jo Anne's illustrations. They're so detailed but so beautiful, and they have so much kind of emotion and excitement in them. It's really wonderful as an author to get to see the illustrations for your book for the first time, and I love always seeing the illustrations that Jo Anne's done for my winter stories. So Luna is, as you can see, all about a bear. It's actually about a dancing bear, and you might think that dancing bears are something that don't exist anymore, and the dancing bear in this story is actually in the past. This is a time travel story, so most of the story is set within the 1600s, but actually there are still, sadly, a few dancing bears in different parts of the world, and there are charities working to protect them and to rescue them. So this is something that I feel really strongly about. If you read Luna, you'll find out more about how the bears are trained, which is actually quite cruel, and you'll see that it's something that we should all be trying to stamp out. So this is a story that's got a kind of deeper meaning behind it, about caring for animals and caring for the world around us. So I'm going to read you a little bit of Luna just to give you a sense of the story. It's a lovely snowy winter story. It's set in Germany, and the main character, Hannah, has gone to a Christmas market with her family, her mum and dad and her younger sister Olivia. And this is the first day they're at the market. They're wandering around and it's just started to snow, so that's really, really exciting. And they are looking at the different beautiful displays and stalls at the market. I've been to Christmas markets in this country, but I've never been to one in Germany, and I'm desperate to go. Actually, even more so since I've written this book, because I did a lot of research by watching videos of different Christmas markets and looking at pictures, and I think they look absolutely beautiful, and I would really love to visit one. So this is just a little bit of Luna to give you a flavour of the story. Mum wanted to get some Christmas decorations, so she kept stopping to look at the stalls, but there were so many that Hannah didn't see how she was going to choose. "Oh, look," Mum said, stopping at a display of brightly painted wooden figures. "We could have that Father Christmas one. He'd look lovely on the mantelpiece." Hannah and Olivia were looking at the stall across the path, full of enormous stripy lollipops. They both had a little bit of spending money, and the lollipops looked like they might last a week, they were so huge. "Dad, can you ask that lady how much the lollies are?" Hannah glanced back at her parents, but they were busy discussing which of the Father Christmases had the nicest face and didn't hear her. "Hey, don't wander off." She caught Olivia's sleeve. If her little sister went off on her own, they might never find her again. "We'll ask them again in a minute. Let's look at the figures. I think Mum's going to buy one." Olivia muttered something grumpy about wanting a lollipop now, but Hannah knew she wasn't really hungry. They were both full of hot chocolate and the rich spiced gingerbread that Dad had brought. "They're beautiful," Hannah breathed, coming to stand next to Mum. The stall was packed with shelves and shelves of shining figures. Elves, dancers, fairies, tin soldiers and the funniest little carved animals. Hannah smiled at one small cat that looked just like their tabby cat, Misty. "Aren't they beautiful? Oh, it's so hard to decide. Some of them are puppets, girls. Can you see? The ones hanging up there, they've got strings." Hannah nodded, peering up at the puppets dangling from the ceiling. There was a gorgeous angel puppet with silver wings, but she couldn't read the price on the little paper ticket hanging from the angel's painted foot. She had a feeling that the puppets might be very expensive. No two were the same, and the painting was so delicate. She leaned sideways to look at the figure behind the angel. She couldn't tell what it was, but she thought it was an animal. It definitely had fur. "You like it?" The elderly stallholder smiled at her. "You want to see?" He turned round to grab a pole with a hook on one end, obviously made for fetching down the stringed puppets. Hannah looked worriedly at Mum. What if the man thought she was going to buy the puppet? She was almost certain it would cost too much. "It's all right," Mum said, patting her hand. "He's only being nice. Here." The old man held up the puppet in front of Hannah, carefully straightening out the strings. It's a little bear, you see?" Hannah nodded, forgetting all about the price. The bear puppet was shiny with new paint, but there was something about it that looked old. Hannah could imagine it in a museum, in a glass case. It wasn't a cuddly teddy bear sort of bear. Although it was carved to be round and a bit podgy like a cub, it was a wild-looking creature with shaggy brown-black fur and sharp teeth glinting in its muzzle. Round its neck was a ruff made of red and white sparkly satin, like a clown's, but Hannah didn't think it suited the bear. It looked as if the cub would quite like to chew it off. Even with the silly ruff, the bear looked fierce. It had dark eyes that gleamed wickedly, as if it wanted to leap off the counter and charge away into the market. Hannah could imagine the bear stealing sausages and gingerbread, sending the crowd squealing. "Did you make it?" she whispered, looking up at the stallholder, and he nodded. Yes, I make them all. Is nice?" "Yes, very nice," Hannah nodded enthusiastically. "I make it dance for you," the old man told her, carefully positioning the wooden cross that held the strings. He set the bear's back paws on the counter and then began to twist his hand, cleverly bouncing the arms of the cross so the strings made the bear's paws tap and wave. There had been music in the background the whole time they'd been at the fair. Christmassy music floated across the square from the brass band, and the different rides had bells playing jingly tunes. But all that seemed to fade away as the old man danced the bear across the counter for Hannah, and a new sound started up. There was only a drum at first, a faint, insistent beat that seemed to get louder as the bear danced on. Then a flute, piping a sharp jig from somewhere close by. Hannah glanced round, thinking the player must be right behind her, but there was no sign of anyone. The music made the bear dance faster. And then Hannah smiled to herself. That didn't make sense. The bear was only a puppet, and she knew that it was the old man making him dance. But she could hardly see the strings now, and the cub's hind paws were rattling hard on the counter. Its face twisted, the teeth showing more, its small round ears flattening. The bear looked angry, almost scared, and the bouncy music made Hannah's heart thump sickeningly hard. And then the old man stopped twisting the wooden cross, and the bear was a puppet again, sagging on its strings. Hannah blinked. There were tears in her eyes, and she didn't know why. "What happened?" she whispered, and Mum glanced down at her. "Are you all right, Hannah? You look a bit pale." Yeah. Did you hear that music? The drum?" Mum shook her head. "No, only the music from the carousel. I wonder if we need to go back to the hotel. You look ever so tired." "I'm not. It doesn't matter." Hannah gazed at the bear cub, biting her bottom lip. The stall-holder had made the puppet sit, its hind paws stuck out straight in front, the strings coiled neatly beside it. Its pointed muzzle was different now, carved so it was almost smiling. The cub was such a handsome creature in its stripy ruff. There was nothing of the sad, angry bear from before. "It dances nice," the old man said, smiling at Hannah, and she smiled back slowly. Had the old man seen what had happened? He must have done. He'd been the one making the bear dance so strangely, but he didn't seem troubled. He tapped the bear's wooden head affectionately with a fingertip and chattered on. "It is good carving. I'm very pleased. Nice paint. But perhaps you like something pretty instead. A little Christmas fairy?" He waved at the shelves behind him, the line of wooden dolls, and began to pick up the bear's strings, ready to hang it back up on the ceiling. Hannah shook her head and reached out for the bear, but her fingers hovered over its paws. She didn't quite dare to touch it. "No, please don't put it away. It's beautiful." She tugged at Mum's coat sleeve and whispered, "Is it expensive? Have I got enough money?" The old man smiled again and held up the ticket tied to the bear. Mum made a thoughtful noise, and Dad shook his head. "That's quite a bit, Hannah. It will be all the spending money we said you could have, and a little more. Nothing left over for amazing lollipops." He waved at the stall behind them, and Olivia danced up and down impatiently. "Can we go and get a lolly now?" Special price for the bear and the Father Christmas, the old man put in, scribbling something down on a pad and showing it to Mum. Well, maybe. Do you really want the puppet, Hannah? You haven't had a chance to see anything else yet. There are so many markets and it's our first day here. I really, really want it. The bear's special, Mum, can't you see? This time, Hannah let herself touch the bear's wooden paw, and just for a moment, it felt like fur. So the bear puppet is going to turn out to take Hannah on a really special journey back in time. And I really hope that you enjoy reading Luna. I loved writing this book. It had such a special feel for me, thinking about the real dancing bears. And it also reminded me of lots of the books I grew up with, which were time travel stories. I loved reading them. So I'm really excited to share Luna with you, and I hope you enjoy reading it. Bye!